4:47 a.m. Wilson County, Texas. Highway 97. 14 federal vehicles moved in total silence down a caliche road, headlights off. The lead truck was a blacked-out Tahoe carrying 4 deputy U.S. Marshals from the Lone Star Fugitive Task Force. Behind it, 2 FBI tactical units out of San Antonio, a Texas DPS cruiser, and 3 Wilson County Sheriff's units running dark. A helicopter held position a mile and a half to the east, its blades barely audible above the October wind. The property ahead was 14 fenced acres of scrub cedar and Johnson grass. A single padlocked gate at the road. In the center, a single wide trailer on cinder blocks. Behind it, a newer addition, raw plywood and corrugated steel, that had not appeared in the satellite imagery on file 2 years earlier. Inside that addition, according to task force intelligence, compiled over the 11 days prior, was a man named Daniel Croft. Wanted originally on a state warrant for a fatal hit-and-run outside Floresville in May of 2026. And behind a false paneled interior wall of that addition, possibly 6 young women who had not been seen by anyone who loved them in 95 days. The Tahoe stopped 40 meters short of the gate. No orders given. 14 agents spread into their assigned positions without a spoken word. What you are about to hear is the reconstructed account of how those 6 women were found, and why the thread that unraveled the entire operation began not with a federal database or a surveillance drone, but with a rural mail carrier on an October morning and one propane delivery she happened to remember. To understand what brought 14 federal vehicles to a caliche road in Wilson County before dawn, you have to go back to the night of May 2nd, 2026, and a stop sign at the intersection of Farm to Market Road 772 and County Road 115, just outside Floresville, Texas. A Chevrolet pickup truck ran the stop sign at an estimated 63 miles per hour and struck a Ford sedan broadside. The driver of the sedan, a retired schoolteacher from Floresville named Margaret Alvarez, was pronounced dead at the scene. Her adult son, who was in the passenger seat, was airlifted to University Hospital San Antonio with a fractured pelvis and a collapsed lung. He survived. The pickup did not stop. By the time Wilson County deputies reached the intersection, the truck was gone. 2 witnesses had caught a partial plate, 3 characters. That partial went into state and federal databases within the hour. 3 days later, investigators identified the vehicle. A 2018 Chevrolet Colorado registered not to the driver, but to a cousin, a man named Raymond Croft, who lived in Pleasanton, 30 miles southwest. The driver, Raymond's cousin Daniel, had no current address on file. No employer of record. No active utility accounts in his name. Warrants for Daniel Croft on charges of vehicular homicide and failure to render aid were issued May 5th. Wilson County Sheriff's investigators began searching for him. For 6 weeks, they found nothing. They spoke to Raymond Croft, who said Daniel had been moving between extended stay motels and informal arrangements across 4 counties, but had not been in contact recently. They distributed Daniel Croft's driver's license photograph to patrol units throughout the region. They reached out to prior known associates, 2 men who had been arrested with Croft in previous years, both of whom were unresponsive to investigators. They canvassed 3 motels where Croft had previously stayed. No current trace. By mid-June, the case was referred to the U.S. Marshals Lone Star Fugitive Task Force in San Antonio. Task Force supervisors assigned the file to Deputy Marshal Carla Voss, a 12-year veteran of federal fugitive apprehension, whose prior assignments had taken her from the Rio Grande Valley to the Louisiana state line. Voss ran Croft through every available system. The results were consistent. A man who moved through life leaving a minimal footprint. No bank accounts in his name in the last 3 years. No registered cell phone contract. 2 prior arrests, neither resulting in conviction. one for receiving stolen property, one dismissed on a procedural motion. She pulled utilities. That search produced a single result. A propane service account, opened in October of 2025, in the name of Raymond Croft, for a rural property on Highway 97, outside Stockdale, Texas. 12 miles from the Floresville hit-and-run intersection. Voss flagged it and moved on to other leads. At that point, the property was one location among several to be checked. Nothing about it, on paper, was urgent. That assessment was about to change. Teresa Ruiz had worked the rural mail route through that stretch of Wilson County for 11 years. She knew the boxes on her route the way a surveyor knows corner posts, by position, by condition, by the patterns of what arrived and what did not. The box at the entrance to the Highway 97 property had received mail addressed to one name for 3 years, Raymond Croft. Rural utility bills. Occasional circulars. The unremarkable mail of a property with one resident who spent most of his time elsewhere. In the third week of October, a Wilson County deputy doing routine community liaison contact stopped Teresa Ruiz during her route and asked whether she had noticed anything unusual in her delivery area over the preceding months. It was a standard community policing canvass, not targeted at any particular address. Ruiz mentioned 3 properties she thought were worth looking at for various reasons. The Highway 97 address was one of them. She told the deputy what she had observed. For the previous 3 months, roughly since early August, the porch light on that trailer had been burning every single night. She knew because she drove that route before sunrise, 6 days a week, and had done so for 11 years. A porch light burning in full August and September daylight was unusual enough to register on the first day. 3 months of it meant the light was never turned off, or that whoever controlled it had settled into a pattern of leaving it on permanently. She had also seen the propane truck. Not once. 3 times. The same supplier, a local outfit operating out of Pleasanton, about 30 miles southwest. She recognized the truck by a distinctive dent on the rear tank housing, which she had noticed the first time it appeared in August and again in September and October. A single-wide trailer in South Texas, she told the deputy, did not use propane like that. Not in summer. Not even close. The deputy wrote it up, logged it as a field contact report, and filed it in the Wilson County Incident Management System. The filing sat in that system for 9 days. On a Wednesday afternoon, a task force liaison reviewing shared incident reports during a weekly interagency coordination call noticed the field contact entry. It mentioned the Highway 97 address in the context of an unusual utility usage pattern. The address matched the propane account Voss had flagged 6 weeks earlier. The liaison forwarded it to Voss at 4:51 p.m. Voss read it on a Thursday morning. She pulled the propane company's service records for the Highway 97 address that same morning. The records were obtained through a voluntary records request to the supplier, no warrant needed for billing data held by a third-party commercial service. The supplier's accounts manager emailed the records within 2 hours. 3 fills between early August and the third week of October, 2025. Total volume, 430 gallons of propane, across 3 months during summer and early fall. The average single-wide trailer in South Texas, according to published Texas State Energy Conservation Office residential data, consumed between 40 and 70 gallons of propane per month in that seasonal window, even with full appliance use. A single resident cooking daily and running a gas water heater fell in that range. Upper end, 210 gallons for 3 months. 430 gallons. For a single-wide trailer. In summer, the gap was not subtle. It was a number that could not be explained by one person's residential use. It required additional load, significantly additional load, running continuously over an extended period. Voss cross-referenced the fill dates against a database she had not previously combined with the utility inquiry. The Wilson County Sheriff's Office Missing Persons Active Case List integrated with Bexar County's active list, Guadalupe County's, and Comal County's. She pulled every open missing persons report for the geographic region within a 45-mile radius of the Highway 97 property, covering the window from July 1st to October of 2025. There were 9 names on that combined list. 9 young women, all between the ages of 22 and 27, all reported missing within that 45-mile radius, all within that same general time frame. Voss read through the 9 files over the course of that Thursday afternoon. She flagged 6 of them. The 3 she removed all had subsequent confirmed sightings after their initial missing persons filings. Social media activity on one, an address confirmation on another, a cell phone location ping that placed the third at a Texas border crossing. Those 3 were likely runaways or voluntary departures with complications that did not involve captivity. The 6 she kept had something in common. Each had stopped all contact with family and friends on or after a date between August 3rd and August 25th, 2025. None had any confirmed sighting after their last known location. None had any active social media activity. None had made any financial transaction, no credit card, no ATM withdrawal, no phone payment, after their respective disappearance dates. And all 6 had last known locations within 38 miles of the Highway 97 property. Voss called FBI San Antonio at 11:43 that Thursday morning. The Joint Task Force convened that afternoon in a conference room at the FBI San Antonio field office. What had begun as a state fugitive apprehension case, 1 man, 1 vehicle, a fatal hit and run, had, in the span of a phone call, become something the room recognized immediately as something else. The 6 women were Lauren Salcedo, 23 years old, a certified nursing assistant from San Antonio, who had been working a regular shift schedule at a medical clinic on the northwest side of the city. She was last seen by her co-workers leaving her shift on August 9th. Her mother had been calling police departments and hospitals every week since that date. Daniela Fuentes, 25, a hotel front desk supervisor from New Braunfels, reported missing by her employer on August 13th when she failed to appear for her shift and could not be reached by phone. Her younger sister had been driving between San Antonio and New Braunfels for weeks, posting flyers at laundromats and gas stations. Brianna Polk, 22, from Seguin, last confirmed seen at a gas station on the west side of that city on August 19th. The gas station footage had been reviewed by Guadalupe County investigators and showed nothing irregular. Polk paid for fuel and drove away. Her direction of travel was not recovered on subsequent road camera footage. Monica Vargas, 26, from San Antonio, reported missing August 24th by her roommate after 3 days of no contact. Vargas had a 2-year-old daughter being cared for by Vargas's mother during the intervening period. Amber Kowalczyk, 24, from Pleasanton, 30 miles southwest of the Highway 97 property, reported missing August 22nd. Her last confirmed contact was a phone call to a friend the evening of August 21st. The call lasted 4 minutes. No one who spoke to her has been able to identify anything unusual in the conversation. And Rachel Klein, 27, from Floresville, the same town where Margaret Alvarez had been killed in the May hit and run, 12 miles from the Highway 97 property. Klein was reported missing August 25th by her fiancé, a construction worker named in public court filings only as her emergency contact. He had taken unpaid leave from his job to search for her and had been doing so for over 2 months by the time the task force convened. 6 young women from 6 different towns across 4 counties. Each reported missing in a 22-day window. Each within 40 miles of one another. Each within 40 miles of Highway 97. Deputy Marshal Voss looked at that map on a Thursday afternoon. She had a fugitive, a man with a criminal history of document fraud and property crime, using a property under a relative's name, with an extraordinary propane consumption pattern, 12 miles from where that fugitive committed a vehicular homicide and fled. In the area around that property, 6 young women had vanished within 3 weeks of one another and had not been seen since. The geography didn't suggest anything. It snapped together. The task force had its priority target. What it needed now was confirmation, enough inside intelligence to know what they were walking into before any physical approach to the property. The task force agreed immediately on the constraint: no physical contact with the Highway 97 property until covert surveillance could confirm Croft's presence and give investigators some understanding of the interior situation. Moving prematurely carried an obvious risk. If the 6 women were inside that addition and something went wrong during an approach, they had no margin for error. 3 months of investigation without a confirmed location on Croft had already demonstrated that moving fast without intelligence was how you lost a fugitive. 11 days, task force supervisors told Voss. They needed a minimum of 11 days of covert observation to build a viable entry package. The surveillance operation was designed to be invisible at road distance. A trail camera, the type marketed to deer hunters, running on a concealed rechargeable battery pack, waterproof, rated for outdoor installation, was mounted on a cedar fence post 60 meters south of the gate on a Sunday night. The install team operated without vehicle lights for the last quarter mile and cleared the area in under 7 minutes. The camera transmitted compressed still images via a cellular relay on a 4-minute cycle. By the following Wednesday, the camera had confirmed what Voss needed. Daniel Croft, present at the property. Arriving by a dark-colored pickup truck, not the Colorado from the hit and run, a different vehicle, at approximately 10 p.m. on Tuesday. Departing at 7:14 a.m. Wednesday. The partial plate visible in the departure image matched all 3 known characters from the Floresville wreck. He was there. The property was active, and he was leaving in the mornings and returning at night, suggesting a pattern: somewhere to go in daylight, somewhere to return to after dark. An aerial thermal pass, conducted by a Texas DPS fixed-wing aircraft on the following Friday night, at altitude sufficient to avoid triggering ground attention, produced imagery showing heat signatures in the rear addition inconsistent with an unoccupied structure. The main trailer registered 2 heat sources. The rear addition registered considerably higher overall output, with a distribution pattern that the analyst who processed the imagery described as consistent with multiple occupants and a sustained heating appliance. The propane heater, running full capacity through an October night. 3 days before the planned raid, a final piece of evidence completed the warrant package. Automated license plate reader data from a state highway junction 11 miles from the property showed the same pickup truck, same partial plate, same time of day pattern on 4 consecutive days. On the 4th pass, a second angle camera captured a full plate. The vehicle came back registered to a woman whose name appeared in Raymond Croft's prior documentary fraud case as a document lender. A federal search warrant and arrest warrant were drafted and presented to a magistrate judge in the Western District of Texas on the morning of October 29, 2025. The warrant was signed at 2:17 p.m. The raid was set for 4:47 a.m. on October 31st. Here is where the operational picture became considerably more complicated than anyone had planned for. 20 minutes before the convoy was scheduled to move from its staging position 2 miles from the property, the trail camera captured a new image. The pickup truck was outbound, moving toward Highway 97, away from the property, not toward it. Croft was on the move. In the wrong direction. At 4:27 a.m., the task force field commander had a decision window of under 4 minutes. Option 1. Abort the property search. redirect all units to intercept Croft on the road, hold the property search until Croft was secured and could be questioned about the interior. Risk: if there were occupants in the addition locked from the outside, they would remain there for an indeterminate additional period, with no certainty about Croft's route or timeline. If Croft discovered surveillance during the delay and returned to the property with foreknowledge, any occupants were in immediate danger from a man who was already wanted for vehicular homicide and had spent 2 months evading a federal warrant. Option 2. Split the operation. K-9 interception team to Croft on the road. Entry teams continue to the property as planned, executing simultaneously. Risk: reduced personnel at both locations, and entry onto the property before Croft was in custody meant a perimeter that might be incomplete. Voss made the call at 4:29 a.m. Split. The convoy moved. 2 deputy marshals with 2 K-9 teams broke from the convoy and accelerated toward the Highway 97 junction. The remaining 12 federal vehicles continued to the gate. The K-9 team made contact with Croft's pickup at the Highway 97 junction 6 minutes later. Croft braked, opened the driver's door, and ran. He went into the roadside brush on the east shoulder, heading into a stand of cedar and post oak that ran south along the road. The dogs found him 230 meters from the road, 9 minutes into the pursuit. He was sheltering prone under the lower branches of a cedar windbreak, apparently believing he had outrun the pursuit. He was in federal custody at 4:41 a.m. before the first breach team reached the trailer door. No weapon was discharged. No officer was injured. The main trailer was cleared in under 4 minutes. 2 deputies through the front door, 2 through the rear utility entry. The trailer was empty of occupants. Basic living supplies in the kitchen. A single mattress on a folding frame. A prepaid cellular phone on the kitchen counter, charging. A box of heavy-duty padlocks, 3 of them, all open, all the same model. The addition was a different situation. The exterior door of the rear structure was padlocked from the outside. A has-been padlock assembly on the exterior of what appeared, from the outside, to be a utility and storage addition. An exterior padlock on a storage room is not unusual. An exterior padlock that could not be opened from the inside is something else entirely. The breach team cut the lock and entered. The interior, a narrow utility corridor. Exposed insulation batting on the walls. A water heater. A junction box. A space heater mounted high on one wall, running. And at the far end of the corridor, where a utility room should have ended at an exterior wall, a flat panel of plywood fitted with 4 ventilation slats cut in horizontal rows, approximately 8 inches long each. The team leader stopped. A storage space does not need ventilation. He radioed at 5:09 a.m. Secondary structure. Additional access required. FBI tactical personnel from the San Antonio unit moved to the rear addition within 90 seconds of the radio call. The plywood panel was held in place by 4 barrel bolts mounted on the exterior facing the utility corridor side. They were slid open in sequence. The panel swung outward. Behind it, an interior door. Steel core, set in a rough-framed doorway. Padlocked. Same model as the 3 open padlocks found in the trailer's kitchen. The padlock was cut at 5:13 a.m. Behind the door, a rear bedroom that had been converted. The original window openings were blocked with plywood sheeting fastened from the exterior. No access, no natural light. 2 folding cots. A portable chemical toilet. A case of 24 water bottles, partially depleted. A second space heater running at full capacity. The floor space was approximately 14 feet by 10 feet. All 6 young women were in that room, conscious and responsive to verbal commands from the entry team. What struck the first agent through the door, a detail recorded in the post-raid incident report, was how quiet it was. No sounds had been audible from the corridor. The plywood panel, the steel door, and the sealed windows had created near-total acoustic isolation. The heater's output had kept the space warm. But the space was sealed, and 6 people had been inside it, and no one walking the exterior of that addition would have known. All 6 received immediate medical triage on scene from the EMT team that had staged 2 miles from the property. Vital signs assessed, conditions documented by the attending medical personnel. 2 were transported by ambulance to a regional hospital in Seguin for further evaluation. 4 were transported by a second ambulance to University Hospital in San Antonio. The first family notification call went out at 5:51 a.m. By 6 a.m., Rachel Klein's fiancé, the man who had taken unpaid leave from his construction job to look for her, who had been looking for 95 days, received the call that she had been found alive. The final accounting is compressed. A post-raid incident report filed by Voss at approximately 9 that morning runs to 23 words for the core finding: 6 subjects located. Suspect in federal custody. Property secured as crime scene. 23 words. For what the families of those 6 women had lived through for 3 months. That's bureaucratic reduction at work, taking something of that scale and filing it in standardized incident language. It's not a failure of documentation. It's what the format requires. The real weight isn't in the case brief. It's in the detail that Brianna Polk's family had filed missing persons reports with 2 separate counties and had heard nothing for 95 days. That Monica Vargas's 2-year-old daughter had been asking about her mother for over 3 months. That Lauren Salcedo's co-workers at the medical clinic had held her shifts open for a week before accepting she was not coming back. That is where the weight lives. Not in the adjectives. In the specific duration of specific people's specific weighting. Federal charges against Daniel Croft were filed in the Western District of Texas on November 3, 2025. The initial indictment covered vehicular homicide in the death of Margaret Alvarez, failure to render aid, and unlawful restraint under federal statute. A superseding indictment followed in January of 2026, adding charges under additional federal counts. Portions of the superseding indictment were placed under seal pending resolution of ongoing investigative proceedings. Croft entered a not guilty plea at arraignment. His attorney made no public statement beyond confirming the plea. Raymond Croft, whose name appeared on the Highway 97 property lease, the propane account, and the registration of the vehicle Daniel had been driving the night of the raid, was taken into federal custody on November 8 on charges of documentary fraud and conspiracy. His attorney entered a not guilty plea at arraignment. A separate proceeding covers his case. The propane company's delivery driver, whose route sheets had become a critical link in the investigative chain, cooperated voluntarily and has not been charged with any offense. Teresa Ruiz, the mail carrier, was not identified by any agency in their public statements. Her identity became a matter of public record through Wilson County court filings made available in December of 2025. She has not given interviews. Let's say plainly what this case demonstrates about the system, because it is specific enough to name and clear enough to fix. The missing persons reports for 6 young women, filed across 4 counties in a 3-week window, were sitting in 4 separate agency databases, and none of those agencies connected them to one another or to the Highway 97 property until Voss ran the cross-reference manually. Not because the investigators who received those reports were negligent. They were not. They were handling large active caseloads with the tools available to them at the county level. The tools available at the county level do not include real-time cross-jurisdictional pattern matching across multiple missing persons databases. The Lone Star Fugitive Task Force had access to integrated federal and state database systems that a county sheriff's deputy does not. The pattern 6 women, 40-mile radius, 22-day window, all contact terminated, was visible the moment someone looked at all 6 reports simultaneously on a single map. But the county investigators who received those reports individually had no mechanism for that simultaneous view. That gap is not a data problem. The data existed. The gap is structural. The databases are not integrated at the point of initial report intake. A missing persons report filed in Bexar County does not automatically flag against a geographic pattern forming in Guadalupe or Wilson or Comal County. The task force has the tools and the database access to catch that pattern. The county level does not. And the threshold for referring a missing persons case to a task force with federal database access is not triggered by one report. It is triggered by a pattern that is only visible after the pattern has already developed. The women in that rear bedroom were inside that addition for 95 days. The propane math that broke the case was visible in a billing record that could have been pulled at week 4 as easily as at month 3. Whether pulling it at week 4 would have changed the outcome for the women is not a question with a certain answer. It is a question worth asking. Several questions raised by this case are not resolved in any public filing. The Chevrolet Colorado from the May hit and run, the white truck registered to Raymond Croft that struck Margaret Alvarez's car, has not been located. As of the date of the sealed indictment's public filing, its whereabouts are unknown. Federal investigators have not publicly addressed where the vehicle went in the period between May 2nd and the October 31st raid. The question of how Daniel Croft identified and approached the 6 young women has not been addressed in any public filing. Whether a pattern, a method, or an intermediary was involved is not covered in the portions of the indictment that have been made public. The federal press release issued 4 days after the raid stated that the case had no confirmed connection to any larger network or organization. That statement covered what was confirmed as of 4 days post-raid. The January superseding indictment, portions of which remain sealed, does not clarify that question in its public portions. Think about what that combination of unknowns actually means. A single man, if the public account is complete, sustained 6 captive adults in a sealed rear addition on a rural property for 95 days. That requires logistics, propane, water, food supply, the construction of the addition itself, the modified door and paneling. Whether one person assembled and maintained all of that without any other person knowing anything at any point is the question the case record leaves open. The sealed indictment language may answer it. The public portions do not. That is where this case sits. 6 women recovered, 1 man charged, 1 man cooperating, 1 vehicle still missing, and at least 1 question the public record has not closed. Something that does not appear anywhere in the official summaries sits at the center of the operational timeline when you look at the full record. The trail camera image that confirmed Croft's presence at the property was captured at 7:14 a.m. on a Wednesday in October. Timestamp recorded on a 4-minute interval still image. He was leaving. In his truck, driving toward Highway 97. Behind him, in the rear addition, 6 young women were behind a bolted panel and a padlocked steel door. The camera image sat in a task force shared folder for 17 hours before an analyst flagged it and ran the plate comparison that confirmed the partial match. 17 hours. In that window, the investigative machinery had all the information it needed to move the warrant process forward. It just took those 17 hours for the image to move from the shared folder to the right set of eyes. After which, everything happened in under 11 days. 11 days from the moment Voss read the flagged report to the moment the padlock on that interior door was cut. 3 months from the moment the first young woman stopped responding to her family. There is a version of this case where someone looks at the propane account in August, in the week after Teresa Ruiz notices the truck for the first time, where the cross-reference happens at week 4 instead of month 3. Whether that version of the timeline changes what happens inside that rear addition is not a question the public record answers. What the record does answer, the threat existed. It was always there. The mail carrier noticed it in August and mentioned it to no one official until October. The deputy who heard it in October filed it in a county incident log where it sat for 9 days. The task force liaison who found it in October forwarded it within hours. And within 11 days of that forward, the operation was over. That is the whole thread. A porch light that never turned off. A propane truck with a dented tank housing. A mail carrier who noticed. The 6 families were reunified within 24 hours of the raid. Their names have not been released by any of the involved agencies in accordance with victim privacy protocols for federal captivity cases of this type. The Highway 97 property was released from federal crime scene designation in late December of 2025. It remains listed as a contested civil asset in federal proceedings related to the case. Daniel Croft's trial date has not been publicly scheduled as of this account. The demand for the kind of integrated cross-jurisdictional database access that could catch a geographic missing persons pattern in real time, rather than after it has run for 3 months, has been raised in federal congressional testimony by law enforcement associations in 3 of the last 5 years. The specific tools exist. The funding for their implementation at the county level has not been appropriated. The network, in that sense, is never fully dismantled. The case is closed. The structural gap that allowed it to run for 95 days is